Welcome to Turnpike Sports. I am Dave Weischadle, and as always, I'm joined by my producer and co-host, Doug Weischadle. Doug, I always say it's a busy weekend in sports, this opening, but here are the highlights of last weekend. College basketball started. For golf fans, there was the match where Mickelson and Barkley won. Mike Tyson fought again, and history was made when Sarah Fuller kicked a kickoff in the Vanderbilt game, being the first woman to ever play in a college football game. And I'm not even talking about the NFL. So that was just the highlights of this weekend.
Well, don't forget, she did the kickoff for the second half.
Yeah,
which was nice to see.
Yeah,
everyone came out from halftime, and she did it. And
I guess the coaches wanted her to squib it down, and she did it, and good for her. And she made history. And like I said, I haven't even talked about the NFL. I guess Matt Patricia had a bad Thanksgiving, and
rightfully so.
Yeah. And
there's another coach who shall remain nameless that should be on the should have been taking care of this Thanksgiving.
I know who you're talking about. I don't know how Gase still has a job and Matt Patricia is gone, but
I'll take Matt Patricia any day over Gase.
Whatever.
Well, it's one of those things. The Belichick tree is not succeeding too much. I know the one coach that is succeeding is the guy in Miami.
Well,
Brian
actually,
Flores.
And Romeo Crennel has been doing pretty well with Houston. So
Houston's really not a lot to work with.
Yeah, Houston's come on lately, so good for them.
Well, Crennel has head coaching experience in the past anyway.
Sure.
But I'm talking about the first guys coming out of the gate, and Flores is doing the best of the bunch so far, even better than Crennel. And what was their big offensive coordinator, the first guy that came out, and he went to Notre Dame, Charlie Weiss.
Yeah.
I think Flores is a better coach than those guys right now.
And certainly talking about the Houston, O'Brien didn't do too well, which is the person Crennel replaced. Very interesting in the end. And we're not even bringing up yet the quarterback situation for the Denver Broncos.
No, that was interesting.
Which is a big mess.
Yes. Well, the NFL's a big mess right now with the COVID.
And we got a great show coming up for you. Later on, we're going to have our NFL picks. We're also going to have our Turnpike Sports Book Report, where we talk about what's going on in the sports books across the country. And I'll also have an interview with Stephen Keech from Rotogrinders and Better Collective, who's going to tell us all about the new Tennessee sports betting market and the state of fantasy sports industry today. Been a busy week in sports, so let's take a trip down the Turnpike. Today's trip down the Turnpike is brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today. And now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using our promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with drizzly.com.
Exit 1.
Okay, we're going to start off this rundown with a sports betting exit in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
BetMGM and the Pittsburgh Steelers have entered into an agreement that covers both sports betting and iGaming, or online gaming, I should say.
So it covers the whole realm of sports betting and gambling. Well, sports betting is gambling, but gambling in general.
There's a reason for that.
Okay.
BetMGM is going to be launching in Pennsylvania early December. No set date just yet.
What are they going to be launching?
That's what I'm getting to.
Oh, okay.
They're going to be launching the online casino product right away.
Nice. Okay.
Later on, they're going to be doing sports betting. So this deal covers both. So
I'm curious about. I know this will be all worked out. I mean, I live in New Jersey and I travel to Pennsylvania all the time. It's a very short trip. I mean, I'm 7 miles from the Delaware River, which separates New Jersey and Pennsylvania. I wonder if I have an app that works in New Jersey and I cross the river, will that app work in Pennsylvania? Will it be a shared wallet kind of thing? I'm very curious to see how this all works out.
Funny you should ask that.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. You have the answer. Okay.
BetMGM has announced also that there will be one app for everything.
Okay.
You won't have to get a BetMGM Illinois app. You won't have to get a BetMGM Indiana app or a BetMGM New Jersey app. You can do a BetMGM app and have different accounts in the different states through the one app.
And I can choose the state. You know, they'll
Yes.
have a menu and say, what state are you in right now? And the geolocation will tell me what state I'm in, and I can use that, and it'll be the wallet I use in New Jersey will be the wallet I use in Pennsylvania.
Exactly.
All right. Okay.
And
Great.
And if you hadn't noticed yet, I mean, I actually flip between PointsBet and also FanDuel and a couple others. Both of those ask what state you're in.
Yeah, I saw that on the computer. I was just wondering, how that would work. Like I said, a lot of states that have sports betting, a lot of states that have, especially New Jersey and Pennsylvania, they both have online casinos. They both have online poker. They both have online sports betting. So I was wondering if, when I travel across to Pennsylvania, which I haven't done in a long time because of the pandemic, I was just curious to see if I have to update the app. If I have X betting app in New Jersey, will I have to download the X betting app in Pennsylvania? And it doesn't look like, from what you're telling me, it doesn't look like
Right.
I'll need to do that.
Well,
Okay.
it's great. Every time you see a sports betting app add a state, you get an update. And it includes the new states
Yeah.
data that you can use with it. But this is really basically, it starts with the typical deal, the data, the marks, the
This
logos.
is the BetMGM Steelers
Yes,
deal.
this is the BetMGM Steelers deal. It's a typical start with everything. But all these deals, every time we see a new one come in, I always look at what the little bells and whistles attached to these things are. In terms of not just the normal data and logo stuff, but what the two companies have worked out around the deal. And this is a very media-heavy deal for BetMGM. They got game day media and weekly media, including radio spots within Steelers programming, like the Point After show, the Players show, the Preview show, the Locker Room show with Tunch and Wolf, which is on ESPN Pittsburgh. They've got a TV spot that's going to be run during the Mike Tomlin weekly press conference show on Tuesdays. He has a little show for his press conferences.
Great.
Steelers Weekly on Saturdays. The Mike Tomlin show on Saturdays as well. And this is interesting, too. Not only are they going to be the presenting sponsor of the Steelers Kickoff pregame show, which is going to be titled The Steelers Kickoff, presented by BetMGM, oddly enough. They have a little contest going for their fans. It's called the Decade of Black and Gold.
It's interesting. Out in western Pennsylvania, everything is black and gold. I mean, we were out a couple years ago playing golf in Sharon, Pennsylvania. Some great golf courses out in western Pennsylvania. And every sports bar, it seemed like it was the guy's name in black and gold. I have a T-shirt from Billy's Black and Gold in Sharon, Pennsylvania. So
what I also found interesting,
it's interesting
with Billy's Black and Gold, for some people who haven't been there.
Well, all their sports teams are black and gold colors. So,
but the
that's
bar
why
is
it's
shaped
black
like
and
a
gold.
triangle,
Yeah.
like the triangle symbol on the Penguins.
logo. I hope it's still there.
I
It's been years since I've been there, and I don't know if it's still around. I still
very
have the
good place.
T-shirt.
Very good place. Fun.
It was great. I mean, I still have the T-shirt. So,
But this is an actual really interesting contest. Decade of Black and Gold, like I said. The grand prize winner at the end of the season will receive 2 club-level season tickets
wow, that's
and
pretty
2
good.
VIP hospitality tent passes for 10 years.
10 years. Wow, that's great.
That's why it's Decade of Black and Gold. It's a 10-year prize.
That's awesome. That's great. Good for the Steelers.
Very
giving that
different.
out.
Very
Yeah.
different. And that's one of the things. Like I said, every time someone does one of these betting companies or online gaming company does a deal, the basic deal is always the same. It's always the additional stuff that makes it very unique in the marketplace. And as more and more of these deals get done, I'm very curious to see exactly how creative some of these companies get with the bells and whistles that are attached to the basic deals.
Exit 2.
All right, this week we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of esports industry firsts.
Oh, okay. All right.
Very different things. We're not going to be talking about players in general. Well, in general we are, but not any players in particular. No records that were set, nothing like that. These are all business sides of the esports industry that have firsts attached to them here.
Sure.
Prodigy, which is an esports talent agency. There are a lot of those out there now, by the way.
You know what? With the money being thrown around in esports and the marketing deals and the product deals, I mean, certainly it's great that these esport players are getting represented, and they need representation, which is great. So good for Prodigy.
Well, they are the first that they have come up with here. They're not the first esports talent agency. Mm-hmm. Prodigy has named the first ever health and performance partner for an esports agency.
Great, you think people are just sitting there playing games, but it's a full body activity. I mean, you ever play these long periods of these games? I mean, your back hurts, you're thirsty, and you really need to be maintained physically very well, because you know what, if your body breaks down during a long session, you're not concentrating. So good for them.
G Science, which is the company that Prodigy has partnered with, not only will be doing a health program for each individual talent signees that they have on their roster, mental health as well.
Like I said, focus is important. You got to focus in on that stuff.
And they're also going to be working together to create a mental health awareness initiative for the entire esports industry, which is nice to see.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of pressure on some of these kids doing this.
Yeah, I would think, like I said, your back could hurt for a long time, or your legs or your arms, and I'm thinking your eyes too. You're staring at a screen for a while. I'm wondering. I wonder if they need special goggles or something like that if they do eye tests.
I'm thinking about all the pressure they're under to perform well each and every game.
Know. Yeah,
that's got to crack some kids.
Oh, sure.
These
are young guys too, young men and women.
Yeah.
I mean, with a lot of pressure because they're making all these contracts,
and not only pressure from outward, but also themselves putting pressure
Sure.
on, because they're competing for contracts now. They're getting more and more like in a normal sport where they have to compete against each other and have to do their best every time, otherwise they get fired.
Especially like the college, if you get a scholarship, these men and women are getting scholarships for college. I mean, they really have to, buckle down and do well because of their scholarship depends on it.
Well, these next two first are really good indications of how esports is becoming a mainstream professional sport.
Okay.
Superscript, which is an insurance company,
okay,
is now going to be providing both professional indemnity and public liability insurance for coaches and teams in the industry. Now, this is through Lloyd's of London, which is a huge insurance broker over in the UK.
When you think of insurance, Lloyd's of London usually pops into your mind. I mean, well, I understand. Look, I mean, if I'm a esports player and I break my hand, or something happens with my hand, or I have nerve damage in my arm or my hand, you got to be covered.
I remember hearing stories way back when.
I know dancers get for
their
legs
exactly.
or something like that.
Also, Mary Hart. Remember the old Entertainment Tonight anchor?
I don't think you want to call her old.
The old Entertainment. No, she had her legs insured.
The former entertainer.
I'm talking about old in terms of Entertainment Tonight, the show. I wasn't referring to her.
Okay.
But she had her legs insured, too.
Okay.
So Lloyd's of London was the insurer.
I would assume a lot of people who depend on a certain body part would get that body part insured.
Lloyd's was the only ones doing that for a while, too. I know there are a couple other insurance companies out there that do stuff like that, but Lloyd's was the only one doing it.
Okay. So they're now involved in esports now, huh?
They're an underwriter for Superscript, which is also an underwriter for insurance.
All right. Okay.
And last but not least, for the esports industry exit, advertising company DDB Worldwide, which is probably one of the most well-known advertising agencies in the world.
Sure.
They are going to be launching DDB FTW. That's a mouthful of letters to say.
Wait, I want to get this right. DDB FTW, right?
The FTW stands for the win.
Okay, for the win.
And this is not for the players. This is an advertising agency for brands who want to get into the esports industry. They're going to help train and secure positions for brands at different esports tournaments with different esports clubs. Pretty much everything to do with branding going into the esports industry. DDB Worldwide, DDB FTW will be doing it for them.
Okay, DDB Worldwide will be representing the product,
brands
that might want to get involved with esports, and DDB will facilitate them getting involved with the esports.
Not just facilitate, but they will make the deals.
They will make the deals. All right.
So all three new first for the esports industry, insurance, health, and advertising.
Great.
Exit 3.
Got another set of trademarks to talk about this week. I know last week we talked about Shackpot.
Yeah, okay. Are these current players now we're talking about?
These are current players, and these are another couple of intent-to-use trademark applications. Now, I said last week, intent-to-use means there are two types of applications you can file for a trademark, one that's in use already, that you have on products and you're trying to sell, or a mark that you intend to use on products down the road. You don't have the products going in commerce right now. These are down the road.
Okay, so an intent to use is, this is the trademark I intend to use in 6 months to a year, and I'm just
could be any time.
I'm just putting you on warning. This is what I'm doing, and this is
right.
So I'm first in line.
Consider this as a placeholder for the brand that you want to try and create.
That's an intent to use. Okay.
Intent to use, and it's not just within 6 to 12 months. It could be file it, and then you have 6 other extensions after that if you don't launch yet. So you can have at least 3 years worth of time with this.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about 3 trademark filings by 2 professional quarterbacks.
I think I know one, and I'm not gonna step on all over your news.
No, go ahead.
But one has to do with the kitchen supplies. Am I right, or is someone with a kitchen?
You're talking
cooking.
You're talking about Seattle Seahawks quarterback Russell Wilson.
Yeah, that's it. Is something with cooking?
His group has filed the application for the mark "Let Russ Cook."
Let Russ cook. Now, does it have something to do with cooking?
It's all about cooking.
It's all about cooking. All right.
The actual services that this trademark would be covering would be a website detailing cooking utensils, cookware, and cooking attire such as chef's hats and aprons. And this is going to be, it makes note in the application itself. I looked at it up online. You can look at all these things. Go to uspto.gov and search trademarks. You can find these.
Wow.
They have made a notation saying that the proceeds will be going to Russell Wilson's Why Not You Foundation.
Great.
Now, it's interesting because he's got this cookware stuff going on. His wife, Sierra, she just launched a line of home apparel and home goods through Amazon.
Hey, great.
So he's handling the kitchen, obviously. She's handling the rest of the house with everything that they're doing. So they're expanding their little empire. And we'll see exactly how far along it gets, whether or not it makes it through to the next stage. I'm sure they have searched this all out before doing this.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I can't wait to see some of that stuff. I like the cooking utensils, and I try, but I'm a terrible cook. So
I'm always curious to see who would oppose something like this. Because it's a charity thing.
Yeah, we shouldn't do that.
Now, do you know the other one before I go into it?
I think Kyler Murray did. I don't know what has anything to do with anything, though.
Kyler Murray is the other one. His group has filed 2 trademark applications.
Okay.
Now, remember a couple of weeks back, he had the Hail Mary pass to DeAndre Hopkins?
Yes.
And the announcer...
I lost money on that, so yes, I remember.
The announcer, I think on the radio or on one of the TV doing the highlights, called it the Hail Murray.
Oh, okay.
So he had his team rush right out and start the paperwork to file the mark Hail Murray.
All right.
And then another phrase, Murray Magic.
Okay, all right.
And this is also an intent to use.
You know what? I don't blame him, though, because he's doing it certainly to get the trademark, but he's getting the trademark to stop other people from using it.
Well, that's what Tom Brady did with Tom Terrific.
Yeah,
also Tom Terrific, he tried anyway.
If he didn't do this, there'd be about 1 million guys outside of the stadium doing these Hail Murray T-shirts, and he couldn't do anything about it. So This is a good way to protect your name.
Well, it's smart. Both of these marks are for, especially the Hail Murray, is for a... Let's see. Nature, I want to get this right. The nature of obtaining for future apparel purposes, namely hats, visors, caps, shirts, shorts, hoodies, and other types of clothing. Now, that's the normal thing you do for these types of marks.
Yeah.
He's got an interesting other little goods and services listed in the applications. A website that features information relating to the accomplishments, exploits, and biography of a professional football player.
Interesting.
Somebody's writing a book.
Yeah,
or a docuseries.
Well, look, I think it's an important way for an athlete to protect their name. You know, you don't want to use it's hard going after someone who uses your name that's not supposed to be using your name. So I think this is a good way to protect what you're doing and whatever thing will happen in the future. So good for him.
Well, the one thing everyone has to be on the lookout for, since Kyler Murray is a athlete that's signed with Nike as a licensed player,
yeah,
you may be seeing a Nike Kyler Murray brand using these
That'd
things.
be great. Good
so
for him.
It'll be interesting to see if that actually happens.
Yeah.
But again, whether or not he goes, any apparel stuff he does has to be done through Nike according to his agreements. Now, whether he can get around that or whatever, or it's easier just to do it with them.
He could license the trademark to
exactly.
Nike.
That's even more money.
There you go.
Exit 4.
And last but not least, for the last exit of this week's show, we are going into the world of Pokemon.
That's something I completely missed on
our time
in my history. So I've never gotten into the Pokemon thing. Never got the app of the game, and certainly the cards. I never got into.
Well, the app, the game,
but it's huge business.
The app, the game, the trading cards all came after our little stint in that age group, basically. Just recently, a 1999 first edition Pokemon base set booster box. Now that's the box of cards that you play the role playing game with.
Yeah,
it's sort of like Magic: The Gathering, where you play with cards, but you play with the Pokemon characters.
Okay. And now it only comes with cards. Is that what's a
that's
booster
all it is.
box?
That's all it is. These are specialized cards that help boost power to the different characters that you're playing.
Well, any game, any sport, anything with a first edition attached to it, I'm assuming it's going to be worth money.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, these are very hard to come by, especially sealed.
Yeah, that's the important thing about baseball cards, or
Anything.
number one, or toys, or the condition, and they should be still in the box. You know,
I just don't know too many little kids.
If you're in the box, and the condition of the box is important, too.
I just don't know too many little kids that can't resist the urge to rip open that box and start playing. But
I remember when we were kids in the 70s, you know, the big toy our grandfather always got us was the Hess toy trucks. You know, and if we were
worth
smart,
a lot of money.
We opened the box and we tried. The big thing with 1 year, I remember for Christmas when the Hess truck had the working lights. I mean, we were driving them under tables and stuff like that so we can see the lights. But I guess if we were smart, you know, we would have not played with them. We would have not taken them out of the box because those things are worth a fortune now.
Well, I still remember you could have bought the Hess toy truck at the Hess gas station.
Sure.
There are no more.
Sure.
So, but this limited edition or this first edition box set of cards sold for as much as a house.
Okay.
$360,000
for a pack of cards.
For a pack of cards, unsealed cards.
You know, that's an investment.
And also first edition, too, because they've had multiple editions of the same cards.
He buys that, he takes that unsealed box of cards, and he puts it in a safety deposit box and doesn't touch it for a couple of years.
Well, this year, this is the second sale of a box like this. In October, a YouTuber had actually gone out and purchased a similar type of box, first edition 1999 base set booster box, unsealed, unopened, for $216,000.
Wow. Okay.
And he opened it up on his YouTube channel. He had 400,000 views on his YouTube channel.
I wouldn't have done that.
Why? He got the advertising with the 400,000 views.
I guess. Yeah.
He showed the cards.
Okay. All right.
If he bought it, he wanted to do it. That's fine. This one, a month later, November 19th, was sold at auction for $360,000. And it shows a value increase of about 66%, they're saying, from what it had sold previously, only a month before.
You know, I wonder if the previous month's sale kind of drove the price of this one up. You know, I would think, you know, that in October it got a lot of publicity about that being sold, and when another one comes up for sale the next month, you know, the excitement is there, and all of a sudden the bids go right up.
Well, the one thing I found out when I was looking at this story for the exit, in 2019, another box had sold, and it turned out to be a fake.
Ooh, okay.
They opened it up, and it was actually turned out to be a fake that they bought for over $150,000.
Oh, boy.
So they don't know whether it was a publicity stunt by the person who bought it or it was actually fake when they bought it themselves and they didn't know. It, either way, but the market's there.
Yeah, I guess
it's
so.
incredible.
And today's Trip Down the Turnpike was brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today. And now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using our promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with drizzly.com.
And as always, you can get in touch with Turnpike Sports by calling or texting us at 609-512-5910. That's 609-512-5910. At Turnpike Sports is the show's handle on Facebook and Twitter. At Turnpike Sports Radio is our handle on Instagram. And as always, our email address is info@turnpikesportsradio.com. And don't forget, you can listen to the show via Spotify, Amazon Music, iTunes, radio.com mobile app, as well as Stitcher and YouTube. You can also watch us on your smart TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV. Head on over to turnpikesports.net. You'll be able to watch our video channel there.
Well, we got a great show coming up for you. Of course, we're going to have our NFL picks. We're going to have our Turnpike Sports Book Report, where we talk about what's going on, the sports books across the country. And I'm going to have an interview coming up right after this with Stephen Keech from Rotogrinders and Better Collective. He's going to tell us all about the Tennessee sports betting market and the state of the fantasy sports industry. So stick around. We'll be right back with more Turnpike Sports. We'll get back to the show in a few moments, but I just wanted to take some time and tell everyone about Bean Genius, the smart specialty coffee subscription service. Bean Genius sells freshly roasted coffee from some of the best independent coffee roasters in the country. They feature over 2,000 specialty coffee blends, all at your fingertips at beangenius.com. Here's how it works. Head on over to beangenius.com and take their palate profiler test to find out what coffee best fits your taste. Then select from a variety of subscription plans. Every subscription comes with free shipping, and delivery can even be scheduled for once or twice each month. And based upon your review of each coffee blend you try, Bean Genius actually learns your individual taste preferences and then suggests future coffee blends for you. And now you can get 10% off your Bean Genius subscription when you use our promo code PIKE at checkout. Bean Genius offers a variety of subscription plans to suit any coffee lover's needs. Subscribe with Bean Genius today and start enjoying some of the best tasting coffee around. And save 10% off your coffee plan with promo code PIKE.
Psst. Yeah, you. Come here. Haven't you heard? We don't need to hide anymore. Now, we can shop privately for adult products at adamandeve.com. They've got massage oils, lingerie, and lots more we can't mention here. Use offer code SPICE404. They'll give you 50% off almost any one item, 3 free DVDs, free mystery gift, and free shipping. That's 50% off, free shipping, and more. Private shopping starts at adamandeve.com.
Today's trip down the Turnpike is brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today. And now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with drizzly.com.
I owed the IRS $10,000.
The IRS garnished my wages.
They put a lien on my house.
I'm self-employed and didn't report all my income. They claim I owe a lot more than I do.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency in the world. They do not give up until you pay.
I couldn't sleep. We were being audited. I called Tax Solutions Now, and a great big weight was lifted off my shoulders.
I called Tax Solutions Now, and they got the IRS off my back.
Tax Solutions Now had my my wage garnishment lifted in 48 hours.
Tax Solutions Now can get you help. Our agents know the rules, can stop the pain, and get you the best deal.
Tax Solutions Now saved my business.
I qualified for the Fresh Start program. I paid less than I owed.
We connect you with a team of former IRS agents and tax professionals who get the IRS off your back. Time is running out. Call Tax Solutions now.
Call 800-297-9788. 800-297-9788.
Welcome back to Turnpike Sports. Dave Weischadle with you here. Sports betting in the fantasy sports world are constantly changing. Tennessee just started sports betting in a very unique way, and we're going to talk to a person who was in Tennessee when it happened. To give us an update on the Tennessee sports betting market and the fantasy sports world, we have Stephen Keech from Rotogrinders and Better Collective on the line. Stephen, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Before we start talking about the launch of sports betting in Tennessee, for people who don't know, give us a little background on the gambling market in Tennessee before sports betting started. I mean, was there even a gambling market in Tennessee before sports betting started?
There wasn't. So we're actually the first legal state to really have a market where it's only the only gambling is happening online. There's no brick and mortar casinos. So it's certainly a little bit different in that way, given that we didn't really have any type of gambling presence prior. But one kind of thing that it seems like, as a resident of Tennessee, that sports gambling was legalized, it seems like almost 5 years ago. It was about a year and a half, but that process from, kind of getting the word that we would be able to do this at some point, and then that actually coming to fruition seemed to take a lifetime. So when it actually finally got here, it was just absolutely incredible. I mean, I felt like a kid on Christmas morning, really, that Saturday night before lunch. Almost kind of a surreal feeling for it to finally be here, and certainly as a fan of sports betting, it's incredible, and given that the industry that I work in, it's also great news.
Now, like you said, you were in Tennessee when sports betting started. On that first day, who were the books that went live?
So we had BetMGM, FanDuel, and DraftKings. They were the big three, and we're obviously planning on. I think beginning of 2021, we'll see up to about 4 more. So that we've seen kind of the big names enter first, and then we'll see some of the some also pretty big names, sites like William Hill that will come in early in 2021.
I know it's very early in the sports betting industry in Tennessee, but has one book emerged as the leader right off the bat in the state? I remember here in New Jersey, DraftKings jumped out to an early lead, and they held on for a while. But right now, who's the main sports book in Tennessee?
At least as it appears to me, I mean, it seems like it's kind of BetMGM. I feel like everywhere you go, any TV channel you're watching around here, you're going to see Jamie Foxx's face. About every half an hour. So I would say probably them. I think they've also kind of have provided the best kind of bonus experience for a new sign up of any of the sites here so far. So that was kind of, as a person that has a daily fantasy background, I was pretty familiar with the FanDuel and DraftKings product. And I'm a big fan of both companies. But BetMGM was kind of the one that I wasn't as familiar with. So I've really been impressed with their product. I think that's actually probably the place that I've enjoyed betting the most, at least to this point.
Like you said, we're probably going to see the big books that we see in other states in Tennessee. However, there's one book that people outside of Tennessee won't see, and that's Tennessee Action 24/7. It's a fascinating story. It's a fascinating book. Tell us a little bit something about that book.
We obviously, like you said, it's kind of just, focused in Tennessee. And, I think nationally, obviously, people don't really know much. And I think even within Tennessee, it's not a name that is too familiar, at least at this point. But I think, they'll obviously make a push, especially in the way of trying to draw new customers, having, pretty lucrative sign-up bonuses. And really just kind of being able to focus solely on the state of Tennessee, I think, is something that, we obviously don't really have yet. We have a bunch of kind of national brands in there. So I think players in Tennessee will come to like that aspect of it, certainly.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, we interviewed Tina Hodges from Tennessee Action 24/7. I mean, she has some great marketing ideas for the book in the state. But in your opinion, what would they have to do to set themselves apart from the big books in the state?
Well, I mean, I think we do see some of the bigger books do this, but I think kind of running different types of promotions, free bet opportunities, odds boosts on games that, are kind of appealing to the Tennessee sports fan, whether it's the Titans, University of Tennessee, a team like Vanderbilt. So I think those, getting people to watch those games and kind of have a, somewhat of a financial interest in them, which they may not have before, I think certainly adds a very interesting wrinkle for fans and can certainly draw a new customer in. So I think that's probably certainly an avenue that they'll take to try to appeal to the Tennessee player.
Do you think they could motivate other smaller books in the state to jump into the sports betting market? I mean, do they have to make a name for themselves in competition with the other big books in order to really make a mark?
I mean, I would certainly think so. I mean, just given the, DraftKings, FanDuel, William Hill, BetMGM, all kind of are national names. I think that people, to a degree, have kind of come to trust, just given how long they've been in business in places like Las Vegas. Some of the books like William Hill that have had kind of an international pull for a while. So I think kind of being, somewhat new to the game, obviously you're going to have to build trust fairly quickly and be able to maintain that early on. So definitely a little bit of pressure on them, I think, early on to try to make an impact and, make a name for themselves and kind of, separate themselves a little bit from the national brands. So, yeah, I'm certainly as a player, I'm very curious to see what they unveil and what that's like.
You mentioned that BetMGM had television commercials. I'm curious, in Tennessee, how are the books marketing themselves? I know here in New Jersey and across the river in Pennsylvania, there have been nonstop television commercials. I mean, what are they doing in Tennessee to attract customers?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty similar here. We're seeing tons of even billboards. I live in the city of Nashville, so even last night, kind of was driving through the city, happened to see a DraftKings billboard. Not that was kind of totally unheard of beforehand, but yeah, I mean, tons of marketing. If you turn on TV for a Monday night football game or a Thursday night game, we had the Titans this past week. Every single commercial break, you're going to see an ad for a book. So, I mean, it's as expected. We're still pretty early on here, so not totally out of what I expected to see. But yeah, it's certainly hard to miss at this point right now.
Now, which books can we expect to see doing business in Tennessee? I mean, you mentioned all of the big ones. I mean, are they all going to flock to Tennessee, do you think?
I mean, I don't think we'll necessarily see as many as you're seeing in New Jersey or that we see in PA. I think right now the safe projection probably, at least for the beginning of 2021 is probably to have somewhere between 8 and 10 books be online. Uh-huh. So it won't necessarily be quite that busy, but we're still pretty early on, obviously, and things can certainly change. So it's a little bit tougher to acquire a license here, I think, than it is in New Jersey. But we'll still see plenty of books, I think, over the course of the next year or two start down in the market here.
Yeah, that was my next question. How many books total can we expect to see in Tennessee? I know a lot of states, the retail properties have a certain amount of skins that they can use, and we can compute how many books in a state can be done through looking at how many skins can be offered. But in Tennessee, they don't have physical properties. Is there something in the law, there's something in the legislature that says there's a limit on how many online sports books Tennessee can have?
Not that I'm aware of. There's obviously, an issue with one of the big kind of things that was a problem for a little bit is the 10% hold, more than 10% hold requirement. So that I think is kind of going to be interesting to see how sites maneuver that. If they don't comply with that 10% hold, I believe it's just a $25,000 a yearly fee. So I'm kind of expecting that sites will continue to offer competitive lines, and we'll just end up kind of eating that fee throughout the year. But I think this first year, I think will kind of shed some light on how that'll be handled. And I think that's certainly an interesting thing to follow for a Tennessee bettor, because at least at launch, we saw very competitive lines compared to what people would see in any other state. But I think there is some concern that may not be the case forever. So, I'm very curious to see how things shake out there.
Well, you mentioned the 10% hold. I mean, are there any other unique rules with regard to sports betting that people have to know about in Tennessee? I mean, for example, here in New Jersey, we have this really stupid rule where if you're in New Jersey, you can't bet on a college and university that's located in the state. Does Tennessee have any of those strange kind of rules with regard to where you can place a bet and what you can place a bet on?
So fortunately not in terms of, we don't have any restrictions in terms of college. It's just kind of we're the only state where it's kind of mobile only. So, if you can't kind of, go to a casino, a sports book and get a bet down there, you kind of have to be able to do that from a mobile device or a computer. So it's a little bit different in that aspect, but I think, given the times that we're living in, it's still pretty convenient. So, that's really the one main difference between Tennessee and the other legal states at this point.
How did the launch go? Did it go smoothly? Were there any glitches? I remember a lot of states sometimes when online casinos started, there were geolocation problems. Another time when sports books started, there were banks that didn't want to have anything to do with sports betting in the state. I mean, any problems, any glitches in Tennessee with regard to the launch?
Not really that I noticed. I mean, I think that's kind of, not being one of the first states to get on board, and, these sites like FanDuel and DraftKings and BetMGM kind of being able to get their feet wet in other states, learn from any launch issues there. I didn't notice anything. I used all three of those apps on opening day. Ran into pretty much no issues. I was pretty happy with what I was able to get from a new sign up angle and bonuses and all that. So and even one thing that's kind of new to me is BetMGM had 24/7 chat support, which I thought was a nice wrinkle compared to most DFS sites at this point. You just kind of send an email in and you hear back a couple hours later. But being able to kind of resolve an issue if you run into one, pretty much simultaneously is kind of a nice wrinkle. So I mean, things have went pretty smoothly. I think it's kind of hard to complain, and certainly no noticeable hiccups at least.
I know anytime sports betting starts in a state, the big deals and the partnerships are soon to follow. I know FanDuel made a deal with the Memphis Grizzlies. I think BetMGM made one with the Tennessee Titans. I mean, even before the market even launched in the state. What do those deals entail, and can we expect bigger deals down the road with other companies?
Well, I mean, I think all the especially the books, daily fantasy sites, in particular states like to obviously be, have some type of deal with the big team in town. You'll if you go to the stadium, not that we're doing a ton of that right now, you'll see ads everywhere. It's just kind of, obviously helps them promote their product. It really is beneficial for both companies. A site like BetMGM can certainly bring new viewers to the Titans. People that may not have been super interested, may have more of an interest now if they're able to have some money down on the game. So it kind of adds value for both companies, and I think it's a pretty sensible relationship for any daily fantasy or professional sports team to want to get into, given where we're headed with sports betting nationwide.
What can we expect for the future of sports betting in Tennessee? I mean, if sports betting becomes a very popular activity online, could that actually lead to retail books in the state, or casinos or online casinos? I mean, it seems like Tennessee is expanding their gambling in the reverse the way other states are doing it. But will Tennessee be content just to have online sports betting?
I think at least for the near future, I don't see the brick and mortar option really being a thing that is pushed for anytime soon. And I think just kind of, where we're at now with things with coronavirus, I think the online and being able to do it from anywhere, not really having to have any contact is a big plus. So I don't see them. I mean, you're certainly right that most states kind of have started differently.
Yeah.
But I don't see that being, at least in the near future, being a thing that is very prominent here.
Well, as I said in the intro, you're a part of Rotogrinders. And for me and a lot of people, that's the premier site to go for fantasy sports. And I want to get your take on the fantasy industry. I mean, we're at a very challenging time in sports business. How has the fantasy sports business weathered the pandemic, and how did it have to adapt?
It's kind of incredible to me. I mean, a year ago, if you would have told me that I'd be spending nights preparing for a Korean baseball slate or learning things about eSports, spending days watching Madden streams, I mean, I would have certainly told you were crazy. But it does kind of give me hope that, even without major sports, we were still pretty busy and we were still able to kind of find things that people wanted to gamble on and create a new market for them. It kind of certainly illustrated the fact that sports betting, as long as there's some action in town, is kind of always going to be there. So, I mean, I still remember, I believe it was March 11th, March 13th, where the NBA kind of had announced that they weren't going to be playing for a while. And it seems like, we just kind of said, what are we going to do? It was obviously a kind of a very unprecedented thing. But it really didn't take long for some other things to kind of come out of the woodwork. I think Korean baseball was a thing that KBO was a thing that I had focused plenty of time on. It became a pretty big deal for us. eSports. Yeah, so it was obviously an extremely strange time, not having any major sports going on, no college sports. But given that we were still able to kind of find things to do, I thought was kind of pretty incredible. And we certainly had still an engaging audience at that point. Obviously, people kind of looking for ways to escape. So it was definitely a bizarre time, but one that I kind of look back on, at least kind of fondly now. It was certainly was able to dip my toes in some different water. So it was definitely interesting, to say the least.
When it comes to fantasy sports, we always had the big players like DraftKings and FanDuel, but have the new sites challenged the landscape at all? I mean, we had Bill Asher on from Monkey Knife Fight a couple of weeks ago. He had some interesting ideas and great ideas for the marketing and his product, and is making some huge deals. Could they, a site like Monkey Knife Fight, can they give FanDuel and DraftKings challenge in the market?
I mean, I'm certainly a fan of Monkey Knife Fight. I really like their format and how it's different from FanDuel and DraftKings. I think it is incredibly tough, especially now, to really compete with those two sites. I think Monkey Knife Fight has done a good job, but I think it's, especially with sports betting becoming kind of more of a thing worldwide or nationwide, excuse me. I think we've certainly seen less in terms of new daily fantasy sites coming about and kind of being able to manage somewhat of a hold in the industry. I think if you look back 5 or 6 years ago when we had kind of more of a wider range of sites that were operating. I remember a time with Rotogrinders where we have 7 or 8 main sites in our daily fantasy console, and now that's pretty much down to about 4. And really most of the traffic comes through FanDuel and DraftKings. So it's certainly changed over the years. You don't see quite as many new sites now popping up as you did back then, but if somebody has a unique product and is able to gather an audience, it's certainly possible, I think, to still make a dent in there now. It's just much harder than it used to be.
Well, that was going to be my next question. I mean, with the rise of sports betting around in all the states, I mean, how is that affecting the fantasy sports business? I mean, are less people playing fantasy and instead betting on sports? Or are we talking about two totally different audiences? But how has sports betting really impacted the fantasy sports business?
That's interesting. I think in a sense they kind of appeal to one and the same in terms of audience. But obviously there are some vast differences in the style, really. I mean, daily fantasy requires a pretty intricate knowledge of each individual player on a team. While sports betting, you can kind of get by doing some different things. And obviously we've seen sites kind of make a smooth transition from daily fantasy to sports betting with FanDuel and DraftKings, and they've obviously have made huge strides in sports betting. So there's definitely, I think, a lot of carryover, a lot of a very similar audience that they're appealing to. And that's kind of one of the best things that has kind of been new to me is the ability to price shop for player props, which is somebody who works pretty heavily in projections. wasn't an option I had before. So to be able to kind of shop around for the best price on props, and kind of utilize the projections that I already do, it's kind of a really nice kind of a carryover between fantasy sports and sports betting. So that's probably been my favorite aspect of betting so far is just getting to look at all the player props on all the 3 sites I'm on now and kind of be able to shop around and get the best number.
Do you think if a company is getting into the fantasy sports business now, they're doing it with an eye toward becoming a sports book? I mean, I told Bill Asher from Monkey Knife Fight when he was on, I've talked to people from FanDuel and DraftKings when they were only a fantasy site, and all of a sudden they come back on a year later and they were a sports betting site. And I asked Monkey Knife Fight that too. Am I expecting Monkey Knife Fight to become a sports betting site? I mean, he kept his options open, of course, as a good businessman, but do you think that's the path a fantasy sports site will take to get into sports betting?
I think especially now. I think if you're kind of launching into that market, it's not necessarily. I mean, certainly that you can still kind of find a foothold in daily fantasy, but I think the broader picture almost certainly will be more sports betting oriented than daily fantasy.
What can we expect from fantasy sports in the future? I mean, a year from now, will FanDuel and DraftKings still be the biggest sites, or could you foresee a new player in the field making some noise in the coming year?
I think it'd be very interesting. We were able to see a new player kind of establish themselves. Those two have gained such a strong hold in the market and have been around and kind of trusted names in daily fantasy for years now. So I think it's, like I said, I think it's definitely tough to compete with those two, at least at the current point in time. And I would imagine that they will remain kind of the industry leaders for the foreseeable future. But, anything can happen, and it would be certainly interesting to see a new site come online and start to rival them.
Stephen, we're running out of time, but I want to give you the chance for you to give out your website and your social media address so people can follow along with what you're doing and what you're writing.
So you can follow me at Steph Byron Keech on Twitter, and you can find kind of all my content. Most of what I do at Rotogrinders is within the player news and the player projections. So if you pop around in Lineup HQ, which is kind of our biggest draw, you'll certainly see my work there with projections. I'm kind of all over Rotogrinders.com with some different things. You can follow us on Twitter at Rotogrinders. If you have a particular sport that you'd like to follow, we also have sport-specific news feeds and things like that. So that's the best place to find me.
Stephen Keech from Rotogrinders and Better Collective, thanks so much for coming on and giving us an update about the new sports betting market of Tennessee and what's going on in the fantasy sports world. You gave out some great information, so please come back on and keep us updated about what you're up to.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me.
Stick around. We'll be right back with more Turnpike Sports.
Attention seniors with Medicare. This is an important announcement. Did you know you may qualify for a monthly Social Security rebate? Did you know you may qualify for a $0 monthly premium? That's right. You may qualify to get $135 added back to your Social Security check each month. Just call the Medicare benefits line to get your options. It's a free call. You may also qualify for $0 premiums, dental coverage, vision coverage, hearing coverage, and prescription drug coverage. With this type of plan, you don't need Medicare supplement insurance. Call now because you deserve to get the most from your Medicare benefits, including a rebate to your Social Security check each month. Agents are standing by with free information regarding Medicare benefits. It's a free call with no obligation, but it could mean big savings for you. Call the Medicare benefits line now to see if you're eligible for a Social Security rebate.
Call 800-574-6770. 800-574-6770.
Now that we're home more than ever, we need to feel safe. Call it a sign of the times or the world we now live in. What do you want to keep safe? The people in your life? What do you want to protect? Your possessions, the things that belong to you, the things that you've worked hard for. Wouldn't it be nice to have tested, trusted 24/7 protection? Peace of mind, real protection that's always there for you and your whole family? Well, now you can with one of our state-of-the-art home security systems. Everyone thinks their home is safe until the unexpected happens. Help protect your home and loved ones today with the affordable next generation in home security. To help keep your family and property safe, call 1-800-520-4068 now. Representatives are standing by to assist you. That's 1-800-250-4068. 1-800-520-4068.
And the Turnpike Sports Pro Football Pick segment is brought to you by William Hill in New Jersey. Football is back, and William Hill is celebrating the 2020 season with a great new welcome offer in New Jersey. Sign up with William Hill Online Sportsbook in New Jersey using our promo code PIKE500 to receive a free bet up to $500 with your first deposit of $50 or more. That's promo code PIKE500 for a free bet up to $500 with your first deposit of $50 or more at William Hill in New Jersey. Must be at least 21 years or older and in New Jersey. Terms and conditions apply. New customers only. Problem gambler? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
And as always with the Turnpike Sports Pro Pick segment, we're going to be choosing between 3 games each by point spread or by total over-under. The picks will be put up on the Turnpike Sports blog about an hour or so after the show is released. Head on over to turnpikesportsradio.com, click on the blog button, and you'll be able to see our picks for the upcoming NFL week here. That has been affected by COVID big time.
Yeah, I know. It's well, like you said, we each picked 3 games. For me, only 2 of those games were played as we're speaking right now, as we're taping right now. I won both those games, the games that were played. I went with the New Orleans Saints minus 5.5, and I went with the under in the Arizona Cardinals New England Patriots game. I won both those. And as we record right now, the Baltimore Ravens and Pittsburgh Steelers have yet to play their game, and I have Pittsburgh minus 3.5. So we shall see. I guess by the time this is posted, that game should be settled, and who knows if I win or not.
Well, if people are watching on TV, I have the season totals so far, excluding that game that has not happened at the time we're taping. You have opened up a pretty big lead on me.
Oh, what is it?
Right now you are 22-13 for the season, excluding the one game.
Okay, so if Pittsburgh wins on Wednesday,
you'll be 23-13.
Okay.
Right. And I am falling rapidly like a stone. I am now 17-18-1. I had another bad week. I've had 2 straight weeks of 0-3. Last week I kind of broke that streak. I went 1-2. I got to start making some kind of move here just to even get close to you again. You've got about a 5.5 game lead right now.
So these picks are you should be very, very creative in these picks coming up, right?
I have to make a move, and I think I have.
Okay,
As a matter of fact, I did something this week that I normally do not do.
Okay, all right.
I have gone with 2 games with huge spreads.
Really? Okay. I have one pick that I'm worried about coming up, so I'll tell you about that pick coming up. So what, if you want to start? I don't know who started last week.
Last week you started first.
Okay.
So I'll go first this time, and this is one of my humongous spread games.
Okay.
The Washington football team visits the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are favored right now at 10 points with an over-under of 44. And the only thing I'm looking at right here is this could fall into the classic trap game situation for Pittsburgh. They're coming off the Baltimore-Pittsburgh game that hasn't been played yet.
Yeah. Well, as we speak, hasn't been played. Well, I guess when this posts, it will have been played.
Yes.
So,
and this game has been moved from Sunday to Monday at 5 o'clock, which is an odd time to play football for any time.
Well, how about Wednesday at 3 o'clock?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is
3:30, 3:40?
3:40.
All right. Okay.
And Pittsburgh, not only are they coming off the Baltimore game to go to play Washington, but they also have the Bills the following week. So this could be that one of those trap games.
If Pittsburgh,
trap
game, huh?
If Pittsburgh is not careful, they could actually run into this problem as a trap game here, because Washington has looked good lately. Alex Smith as a quarterback, he's actually had that team playing pretty well lately.
Well, he's a game manager, I guess they call him.
He's more than that, because he's always been a good quarterback in my eyes. I actually, when he left Kansas City, I wanted the Jets to go get him. I really thought he was that good of a quarterback, but I think with the weird start time in this game, the short rest, it still is a short rest for
Wednesday to Monday.
For Pittsburgh coming off.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. And again, they're coming off a division rival game versus and then the following week after this game, they've got the Bills. I think Washington has a chance to keep this close. Maybe even sneak out a win. I won't say that. I won't go that far. But I think the Washington at +10 is where I'm going here.
All right, my game is, the first one anyway, is the Los Angeles Rams, who are favored by 3 points, versus the Arizona Cardinals with an over-under of 48.5. And I think this one's going to be a very close game. I think both teams came off losses to teams that they are more talented than than the other team was. The Rams lost to the 49ers and the Cardinals lost to the Patriots. Certainly, the Rams and the Cardinals are much more talented than the teams they lost against, and I think they're going to use this week to get back on track. And I think both teams have the potential to put a lot of points on the board, and I think that's what they're going to do this week. This one's probably going to be decided in the fourth quarter. Like I said, a close game. I think they're going to be putting points on the board. I'm taking the over 48.5 in this one.
Okay. My next game, Cincinnati Bengals go to the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins are favored by 11.
Wow, okay. All right.
There's an over-under of 42 as well.
Okay.
I just watched the Dolphins basically shut down the Jets for a second time this year.
Sure.
20-3. The one thing I noticed about the Dolphins, though, they were almost as afraid of the end zone as the Jets were, because they could have actually easily scored a lot more than 20 points. They were giving the ball away. They were taking the ball away from the Jets, but they were giving the ball away just as much.
Some bad turnovers.
And the Dolphins' defense is a very good defense. If they ever figure out that offense, this could be a 10-11 win team at some point. Both the Bengals and the Dolphins have the ability to score points, and I've been seeing this. I took a look back at their last 10 each, and at times they've been scoring a lot of points. Not consistently, though. I think with the Dolphins not being able to score on offense, but the Dolphins having a better defense than the Bengals, I think you might see something around the lines of what they've been doing, the 20 points against the Jets. And I think Cincinnati only scored 17 against the Giants in that loss there.
I'm surprised they scored that much.
That's
because,
what I'm saying.
I don't even know who their quarterback was.
But I just think right now 42 might be a little too high in this game. I'm going with the under 42.
All right. My next game is the Indianapolis Colts, who are favored by 3 points, versus the Houston Texans with an over-under of 51.5. I mean, I really like the way the Colts have been playing lately. I know the last time these two teams met, the Texans won 45-26, but I think Indianapolis has really improved since then. Listen to this. The Colts are 7-0-1 against the spread when playing in Houston and are 4-0 against the spread in the last 4 games against the Texans. And I think that trend is going to continue this week with Phillip Rivers having a big game. I'm taking the Indianapolis Colts and laying the points.
Okay. My last game for the week. And I think you've noticed in my analysis lately, I've actually just chucked out some of the stats because they weren't helping me over the last couple of weeks, so screw them.
Yeah.
Cleveland Browns at the Tennessee Titans. Titans are favored by 5.5, and the over-under is 54. Both of these teams have been scoring a lot this year.
I just want to tell you, this is my last game, too, and this is the bet that I regret. But okay,
because I'm picking it.
No. I even have it written down in my notes. I'm going to regret this. So go ahead. I'm listening intently on this one.
Well, the Titans have scored 75 points in their last 2 games. The Browns have also put up about 49, 50 points in their last 2. So both these teams, both these offenses are scoring. I'm really enjoying watching Derrick Henry for the Titans just start rattling off big run after big run after big run. Cleveland, again, their offense has shown a lot of life lately. And what I found interesting is the over has the total of points has gone over 4 of the last 5 games for Tennessee, and 6 times out of the last 7 meetings between these two teams. Tennessee is 8-2-1 for the over for the entire season as well.
Wow.
So as you can see with what I just led into, this is a little bit more statistically and analytical here. If it was about maybe 57, 58, I'd do the under. But right now, I just, the way these two teams have been scoring, I'm going over 54.
You're going over 54. Okay, well, I picked this game, and this is the one that I took my gut feeling on, and I actually picked it, and then I wanted to do a little research to actually kind of justify my pick, and I couldn't find any research to justify my pick. But you know what? It was my gut feeling, so I'm going with it. And this is the pick I may regret, but I like the Cleveland Browns in this one. I mean, since their bye week, the Cleveland Browns are 3-0. Granted, they beat bad teams, but they won against the teams they were supposed to win against. The Browns are 3-1-1 against the spread in the last 5 games in Tennessee, and I think the Browns have enough talent to keep this game close. And you know what? Maybe even pull out a last-second win. I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm taking the underdog Cleveland Browns to cover.
Well, you want to add to your kiss of death analysis there for yourself?
Okay.
That was my other choice in this game.
Oh, you were on Cleveland Browns?
I was going to go Cleveland.
Oh, okay.
Because 5.5 is too much here.
I don't know. I just don't know. It's
it feels like too much anyway.
Yeah, probably.
Well, let's recap.
See, for me, the over-under 54 seemed too much, but you rattled out some stats that
the 75 points in 2 games and the 49 by the Browns in 2 games. That's a lot of offense.
Yeah.
And both those defenses are built similar.
Yeah,
which I noticed.
But hey, that was my gut feeling, so I'm going with the Cleveland Browns.
Okay. Recap. I went with Washington plus 10 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I went with the under 42 points in the Cincinnati-Miami game, and I did the over 54 in the Browns-Titans.
I'm taking the over 48.5 points in the Los Angeles Rams-Arizona Cardinals game. I'm taking the Indianapolis Colts and laying the 3 points versus the Houston Texans. And I'm taking the underdog Cleveland Browns to cover, or maybe even a win against the Tennessee Titans, who are favored by 5.5 points.
Okay, well, that's it for this week on the Pro Pick segment. The picks will be put up on the Turnpike Sports blog after the show has been released. Head on over to turnpikesportsradio.com. Click on the blog button. They'll be there. You can comment on the blog. You can actually comment to us on Twitter. Turnpike Sports is the handle there, as well as on Facebook. Turnpike Sports Radio is the handle for Instagram. And as always, our email address is info@turnpikesportsradio.com.
The book report is coming up next, so stick around. We'll be right back with more Turnpike Sports.
Sometimes life is wonderful, and sometimes it's not. Cherish the good, but always be prepared for life's challenges. If your employer doesn't supply healthcare coverage and you don't qualify for Medicare or Medicaid, you need to give us a call right now. Private healthcare is private health insurance for ages 65 and under with medical, dental, vision, and even prescription coverage. To get the coverage you need, call the number on the screen now.
Turnpike Sports Book Report.
The Turnpike Sports Book Report is brought to you by BorgataSports.com. Your favorite casinos now, your favorite sports book available anywhere in New Jersey, BorgataSports.com. Sign up at BorgataSports.com using our promo code PIKE, that's P-I-K-E, and you get a risk-free bet up to $300 and 20 bonus dollars at BorgataCasino.com. Must be 21 years or older and in New Jersey to place a bet. Terms and conditions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, this week's book report. We have a whole bunch of different things to talk about. We've got another state record to talk about, got a couple data deals to talk about, a responsible gaming entry in this week's book report.
Good.
as well as some international news in terms of sports betting legislation.
International news,
yes.
Okay.
All right, just to and we in the time we have today, if we don't get to every topic, you're going to see them on the Turnpike Sports blog. Just head on over to turnpikesportsradio.com, click on the blog button, and all this week's stories, whether we get to them on air or not, will be listed out on the blog entry for this week's book report. Let's start off with the state record, which is Nevada.
Yay, all right.
It's interesting to watch every single state, and I don't know if this is pandemic influenced or not, but sports betting in every state has started to set new records.
Well, there's lots of sports to bet on. Like I said in the introduction, it was a busy weekend for sports.
Well, this is in terms of October here, and Nevada has set a new state record handle of $659 million. That is more than 20% compared to the handle of October of last year.
Wow.
So it's growing. It's a new all-time high in terms of state handle. They brought in just under $42.4 million in revenue and a hold of 6.4%. Again, reports on hold because of what just happened with Tennessee with that 10% legislated hold. Everyone's keeping note of what states doing what in terms of hold percentages. The 6.4% was higher. Was a higher hold than their yearly average of about 5.3%. Mobile handle, Nevada, in October was $376.8 million, or just around 57% of the total handle.
Really?
So the online side of everything is starting to grow in Nevada, too.
It's interesting that people are betting a lot in person. Very interesting.
Well, Nevada is Nevada still has that rule that you have the in-person registration.
Yeah.
And you know what? The casinos are open there. Circa Sports just launched, which gave that market a boost. Too.
Sure.
And if you've seen some of the videos from people in the Circa Sports books, it's amazing.
It looks amazing.
Then you pair that with the Circa pool that has the entire huge LED wall of all the games overlooking the pool, where you can actually walk in from the pool and go down to the book and bet. The amount of traffic they're getting in that new book is incredible.
I haven't gotten to a retail sports book lately, so
No.
I am very happy sitting on my couch using my computer or using my phone to bet.
I'll be honest with you, a lot of people like the interaction at a retail book.
Sure.
I like the ease of betting on the phone.
It's a lot of fun. I mean,
it's fun.
Let me tell you something. When I'm at a retail sports book, it's a lot of fun to watch the games. I still bet with my mobile.
Oh, yeah.
When I'm in the retail sports book, it's just that easy. Why get up off your chair and stand in line for a while, make your bet, go back, sit down, watch the game. If you win, you have to go back up and stand in line again. Hey, you know what? Even if I'm in a retail sports book, I use my phone to bet.
I would like to see a study done. I don't know if anyone's done it yet, of people in the retail books are using the online counterpart of that book that they're in.
Sure.
Versus someone else's book. What's the percentage of someone else's online book being used in another retail book? The two different brands.
Yeah.
I'm just curious to see if someone's actually done that study. I'd like to know about it. So info@turnpikesportsradio.com. Let me know if someone's done a study like that. But given Nevada's new state record and handle, it goes kind of hand in hand with what the American Gaming Association just released. They did a revenue study for the third quarter of 2020 for sports betting. Third quarter has seen a 47% year-over-year revenue increase.
Wow.
So a lot of these tax-strapped states that have sports betting are being helped by the sports betting revenue.
Of course they are. I can't believe every state hasn't passed some kind of gambling expansion legislation just to get some revenue into their state coffers to help people.
Well, according to the study, Jersey, Pennsylvania, and a couple other states, Indiana and Nevada, reported that they collected the most bets ever in October of 2020.
Wow. Okay.
And also New Jersey is on track to break Nevada's 2019 record of $5.3 billion of annual sports betting.
Wow. Come on, Jersey. We can do it.
They're getting close to it.
Let's
I
go.
think they're very close. I wouldn't be surprised.
I can't do it all.
If November breaks it. And also they noted by this time next year, there's going to be as many as 35 states with legalized sports betting going.
Wow.
35 out of 50.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yep. I think we have 21 right now, 22.
So they're talking about 14 more states. That's what they're.
I know we had a couple states pass legislation, but they're not enacted.
They're not
yet.
up and running
right,
yet.
They're not up and running yet. Going north of the border to Canada.
All right.
We have some news in terms of sports betting in Canada. Now, everyone knows that, or maybe they don't know, Canada does not have legalized single event sports betting. You can only do parlay betting in Canada.
It was like that in Delaware for a long time.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Only
parlays.
parlays.
So you're equating Canada with Delaware.
Yeah. It's the Delaware of the nations.
Exactly.
Yes. It's the.
Everyone can recall the.
I'm in Delaware.
Exactly. But they have legislation moving through their parliament, I guess is what it is.
Yes.
Parliament.
Yes. Where is that? Ottawa?
Ottawa.
Ottawa.
That there is legislation to legalize single event sports betting. It would be for every kind of sport except horse racing, which is still going to be controlled by different legislation.
Okay.
So they're expanding their sports betting, and one of the reasons why they have changed their attitude toward this, they had a recent study done that, and I'm going to put this in American dollars, $7.7 billion was spent by Canadians on single event betting through illegal bookies.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
And another $3 billion was done on international gaming websites for single event sports betting. So they're losing about $10 billion in revenue, according to this study.
It doesn't make sense not to have it. I mean, if you're Canada, it doesn't make sense. If you're other U.S. states that don't have sports betting, it does not make sense for you not to have it, just to bring some money into the state to help out people in this tough time.
Well, it looks like Canada's moving along in the right way.
Good.
So we'll see exactly when it goes through. Before we move on to some of the data deals, depending on how you phrase it, Thanksgiving. We just had the Thanksgiving games. It was interesting because DraftKings had been reporting that the 2 NFL games that were on Thanksgiving, there was 3 scheduled, 1 got bumped.
Yep.
They had reported about 3.5 times, just under 3.5 times, as much betting handle as the 3 NFL games did last year.
Mm-hmm.
They had 2 games versus 3, and they had 3 times more of the betting handle.
Okay.
Which is an interesting number. I wonder what it would have been if that third game was actually played.
And the third game would have been the best game, I think.
Well, that's what everyone was mad about when they postponed it.
Well, I actually, last week, if you remember the NFL picks, I actually picked that game.
Yep.
I guess we'll talk about that during the NFL pick segment.
Exactly. Well, going over to, we just had the Tyson, you mentioned at the top of the show of Turnpike, the Tyson-Roy Jones Jr. fight.
Yep, came out to a draw.
Yeah, 8-round draw. Everyone said both of them looked good, but Tyson looked really good, according to a lot of the reports. The only reason I have it in the book report was DraftKings was the official sports betting partner of the fight. Then they did a whole bunch of sports betting promos throughout the broadcast as well. They had some pre-match, pre-game sponsored programming as well, content, whatever you want to call it, since it was a digital stream. It was on Triller, Triller.com.
All right.
They even had the DraftKings Tale of the Bet original series going throughout the match itself and leading up to it to capture the sportsbook trends.
Okay.
How the betting trends were going leading up to the fight,
right.
Which was interesting. It was kind of different. Same thing with the match. Remember, we were watching some of the holes had the betting options.
Yeah, I did terrible
who's
at that,
going to
by
do this, who's going to do that, the birdies, who's going to win this hole, who's going to win that hole. So we're starting to see a lot more of the sports betting options being integrated into broadcasts, and they're being integrated into the broadcast very seamlessly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very nice to see that. A lot of people wondered how it was going to do. A lot of people probably didn't even notice it by now.
Yeah, I know. It's becoming second nature.
Yeah, exactly.
The watch with betting information there.
Well, moving on to some of the data deals. We have soccer and basketball news to report. Liga MX, the Mexican soccer governing body, has signed an exclusive gambling data deal with Genius Sports.
Okay.
That means not only distribute and license data to the sports books around the world and around the country, in the United States here, They also will be able to distribute live streams of the games.
Oh, interesting. Good.
So people can actually watch the games through their sportsbook app. Whoever does the deal with Genius Sports will be able to get the live stream of Liga MX, so they can actually watch and bet at the same time.
Great.
Much like what we can do now in this country for a lot of different sports.
I was going to say, I'm seeing a lot of streaming soccer on the sports betting sites, the mobile sports betting sites.
And BetMGM will be the first partner for this.
Great.
Moving over to basketball. Genius Sports also has a deal with the Polish Basketball League and the Polish Basketball Association for much the same setup. Data that they can license to the different sports books around the world, and also streaming rights to the games.
Great.
And last but not least, we're going to do some responsible gaming because we are nothing if not responsible. BetMGM has done a deal with PlayPause. It's a brand new multi-state responsible gaming tool that's going to be integrated into their website. Now,
it's a tool. Okay.
It's a self-exclusion tool.
All right. Okay.
Basically, PlayPause is already, if you want to say it technically, is in a lot of the sports books already because it's run by GeoComply, which does the geolocation software.
Which are really great.
Yeah.
They really do a great job.
Under the current setup with a lot of the books, BetMGM excluding this statement here because of their deal here, every sports book has the ability for a person who is a customer of the book to put themselves on a self-exclusion list so they can stop gambling.
Sure.
It's a problem gambling tool.
Good.
What PlayPause does, it allows the player when they put themselves into the self-exclusion list in one state, PlayPause will allow other states to block them too.
Oh, okay.
Because a lot of people have the gambling issues is that, they can't stop gambling in one state. They self-exclude themselves there. They can't resist the urge to go to the next state over.
Okay, yeah, no, that's a good idea.
So this is a national responsible gambling tool. It's already integrated into the GeoComply software. All you have to do is once they make a deal with GeoComply and also PlayPause, it's actually Conscious Gaming, which is a nonprofit under GeoComply.
Okay.
And once they make the deal, they can actually just basically turn it on if they want to do it. So that's it for this week's book report. Anything we didn't get to, there are a couple deals in terms of sports books and retail mobile in different states around the country. Check them out at the blog. Go to turnpikesportsradio.com, click on the blog button, and you'll see all these news and notes listed there for this week's episode of the Turnpike Sports Book Report.
And that'll do it for us this week. If you're going out to one of the newly reopened casinos and sports books, please be safe, and we'll see you next time on the Turnpike.